On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, Elon Musk shuts down rumors of a Model S and Model X redesign. One of the world's biggest superchargers is getting a massive upgrade, a reported shakeup at Tesla's Autopilot team, plus Tesla's cranking up production in Fremont, and much more. Howdy friends, Ryan McCaffrey with you for episode 206 of Ride the Lightning, the weekly Tesla unofficial podcast for July 14th, 2019. And it is just an absolutely packed Tesla news week this week. To give you an idea, I work on the podcast every night of the week leading up to recording it late Friday night. I had a full show basically set by Tuesday night, and then I kept adding to it after that. That's how much stuff went on in the world of Tesla this week. So, none of it's huge in the megaton sense, like, stop the presses, oh my goodness. But nevertheless, there is a large quantity of interesting Tesla news stories to talk about. So let me get started with the first one, and that is this. Elon was very busy on Twitter. That's part of the reason I've got a lot to talk about, and very busy specifically about Tesla. Some weeks he doesn't say anything about Tesla. Some weeks he says a lot. This was a busy week, and he probably the biggest thing out of everything he said is that he threw a very big bucket of cold water on any rumors of a Model S and or Model X redesign or even large-scale refresh. On Twitter, he replied to somebody that asked about this topic, and Elon saying, quote, "There is no refreshed Model X or Model S coming, only a series of minor ongoing changes. The most significant change in the past few years was to use the high-efficiency Model 3 rear drive unit as an S or X front drive unit. That went into production 3 months ago," end quote. So he's talking about the Raven update that we saw very recently. And the big thing to take away from that, obviously, is that Elon did not have a lot of ambiguity there. There was not a lot to parse as far as did he mean this? Did he mean that? He was pretty darn clear. And even to follow up, just to reinforce, in case you're thinking, Elon says a lot on Twitter. Sometimes it's exaggerated, sometimes this or that. Well, that same person that asked the question that Elon replied to there then asked, will we be seeing an interior revamp anytime soon, though? And Elon chose again to reply and simply this time said no. So that's about as straightforward as you can get. Now, the Model X, as I've said before, and you all know, is newer than the Model S by a pretty significant degree. I mean, the X effectively hit the market in 2016, even though it quote-unquote launched back on September 30th of 2015 with the Founders Series models. So, the X is a lot newer than the S. The S, obviously, as you well know, is from 2012. And then in the spring of 2016, the S did get a slight refresh on the exterior. Now, most people think of that refresh as just that front end. They deleted the nose cone, sharpened up the front end. They tweaked the, not the headlight shape, but the actual, the daytime running light is different in the refreshed Model S. But there actually are a few other little changes in there too. That, I believe, is when they introduced the slipstream wheels as the default, if not right at that same time, right around that same time. But if you look at the back, the telltale way to know if the Model S that you're looking at from the back is a classic design or the refresh design, look at the very bottom of the car on the from the rear, and if there is a chrome accent piece around the bottom in sort of the center area, kind of wrapping around, then it's the classic piece. That was deleted, and it was more of just sort of a streamlined sort of air diffuser back there on the rear. So you can tell from the front and the rear, and so there were a few minor tweaks to the design, not just the nose cone, but the nose cone was, the front end was the big thing. So I mean, for me, I don't really think the X needs any kind of aesthetic update yet. Being from just a few years old, it's still, looks pretty modern, pretty fresh, I think. And the S, certainly since its 2016 refresh, definitely. I think the S is super sexy. In my humble opinion, I think the S is the sexiest car that Tesla is making now. Since the Roadster's not in production yet. But between the S3 and X, I still think the S is just the most, it's just aggressive looking. Like, the 3 is beautiful. I love my Model 3. I think it's a gorgeous car. But the S just looks mean in a good way to me. But anyway, I got to think that Franz von Holzhausen, the chief designer at Tesla, he's got to be dying for a chance to take the interior of both cars a lot further in particular, especially in the wake of, the Model 3 really went a different way and put a lot of people off at first, but as people have used the car, you remember, I mean, when I was doing this podcast, let's see, 3 years ago now, in summer of 2016, a lot of the talk was, oh man, no instrument cluster, just a screen, like almost no buttons. That just seems like it's not going to work. And you fast forward to now, and certainly over the last couple of years since the 3 has been in production, you just don't hear that anymore. Like, it's the Model 3's interior design. I mean, sure, you can complain about a lack of luxury appointments and other sort of accoutrement, but as far as the actual functionality and minimalism of the Model 3 interior, people love it. So, an S and X version of that would be more luxurious would be really, really interesting to see. But anyway, to wrap this particular story up, what this tells me, what this Elon Musk tweet says to me, is that Tesla is very, very content to let the Model S and the Model X just keep doing their very steady, predictable 80 to 100,000 combined units per year, and they want to see the Model 3 keep growing, and soon the Model Y come in and be the high volume products that keep the company growing. So that's what it says to me, that they are not looking to the S and the X to be growth drivers. They're revenue drivers, certainly, and they're amazing cars. I'm not discounting them in the slightest, but from a sort of financial perspective, from a profit perspective, that seems to be where Tesla is content to have those cars be in the product family. Next this week, we're just getting started. Teslas seem to still be on track to get more detailed, shall we say, voice commands. And this comes via a Twitter exchange between Elon and me. So I made a totally just for fun tweet. I think it was on Sunday. I was just kind of sitting around. I made a fun tweet about the Roadster. I compared it to Kit from Knight Rider. I said, hey, both of them can drive themselves. Both of them come to you by themselves when they're summoned. Both of them can turbo boost via the SpaceX package on the Roadster. And a fair number of the replies after Elon replied to it and gave it a lot more of a signal boost, a lot of people were like, you can't turbo boost in an electric car. Like, guys, just Google the SpaceX package and you'll know what I'm talking about. But anyway, again, just for fun, both of them, both Kit and the Roadster, drive out of the backs of semi-trucks. So just et cetera. And then, so for the last thing, I put a question mark and I said, but can it respond to voice commands? How about it, Elon? With a little, winky face. Just again, this was totally for fun. I wasn't even expecting Elon to reply, but he did. He came back and he said, no problem. And then the tweet took off from there. But it was, this was just a fun little exchange. No hard news coming out of this. But to me, Elon replying there and saying no problem does suggest that the AI assistant that Elon talked about a long time ago, this must have been a couple of years ago now, maybe even 2 or 3, that seems to still be on the roadmap somewhere. At least that's what I'm hoping he means out of this. And, odds are, since something like that would just be software, or at worst, it would use the full self-driving computer's overhead computing power, because Tesla detailed in extreme detail at the Autonomy Day how powerful that CPU is, that maybe, it's an AI assistant could be powered by some excess juice, some excess CPU cycles from the full self-driving computer. I got to figure that if and when that happens, it will come to the entire fleet. It will come to every single Tesla, or at the very least, every single one with a full self-driving computer. So that was a fun little thing this week. Thought I would share that. Now, Elon was hardly done on Twitter. Kettleman City is going to be getting upgraded to V3 Superchargers. Now, Elon just saying, someone brought it up on Twitter, and Elon said, quote, upgrading to 250 kilowatt soon. Now, Kettleman City, if you're not familiar, is one of the largest superchargers in the world. 40 stalls at this supercharger. And in my humble opinion, though I've hardly been to all of them, I think it's probably the coolest supercharger out of all of them. So it's on the major Interstate 5 corridor between San Francisco and Los Angeles. As I mentioned, it's got 40 supercharger stalls, and what makes it extra cool is that it's got a private lounge that only Tesla owners can access. There is a code to get in the door, and it will pop up on your screen as you're approaching it in your Tesla. So just random people that come by can't get in unless unless somebody lets them in. So it's a nice, just like, Tesla only place to relax on your trip while you charge up. It's got inside that lounge, if you're not familiar with this place, it's got comfortable seating, a kids play area. It's got very nice, clean restrooms in there. It's got a mini Tesla merch store. I bought the Kettleman City Supercharger t-shirt the last time I was there, and I like to wear that one proudly on a regular basis. It's in my regular rotation. And there's a barista serving up coffee and caffeinated beverages. And then outside, they got a nice little outside area. They have cornhole boards set up to help pass the time. It's a fantastic location. I love it. So the fact that this location is going to be getting upgraded to V3 is just awesome. The question about it remains whether all 40 stalls are going to get upgraded to V3, or if some of them will remain V2s that do 150 kilowatt. I bring that up because both of the currently existing V3 supercharging sites, Fremont and Hawthorne, not all of the stalls there at either of those are V3s. Some of them are V2s. I asked Elon that very question on Twitter in reply, but I did not hear back, didn't get an answer from him that time. But regardless of whether or not all 40 get upgraded, or even hopefully at least like half of them, that they're just going to be able to move a whole lot more Teslas through there each and every day. I saw a picture on Reddit, I think this past week, I believe it was from the 4th of July holiday weekend, and there was a line of about 6 cars or so out into the street at Kettleman City at a 40-stall supercharger. So, on those holiday weekends, those holiday periods, the superchargers can get super, super busy, even the biggest ones, as people, travel and they want to take their Teslas because they're super fun to travel in and they're just a great way to go. So, you might think, well, a 40-stall supercharger, that's the last place that Tesla should be upgrading to V3. But clearly, Kettleman City, it's such a hot spot between, for traveling between San Francisco and LA that they need it. They clearly could need it, because if they can get half or all of those stalls upgraded, then that'll just get rid of the lines, which would be wonderful to see. So that will be something to look for. We don't know what soon means. It's Elon, so, whether that means next month or the end of the year or, sometime next year, who knows? But it'll be great to see regardless when that upgrade happens. Remember, I asked him in my interview, where are you going to start with the V3 Superchargers, and he said sort of on the big interstate travel sites. So Kettleman City certainly fits that bill. Also, via Elon on Twitter, we got a full self-driving update. He says, quote, intersections with complex traffic lights and shopping mall parking lots are the two biggest software challenges. Our developer branch already mostly works in these scenarios, but there's a massive effort required to get to 99.9999% safety. So, okay, that's maybe not an update on their progress per se, but it is an insight into the most difficult problems that they face. And though I very much admit I am not even 1% as smart as the engineers that Tesla has working on the full self-driving situation, if you'd have given me 3 guesses as to what the biggest challenges are for full self-driving, I probably would have said complex intersections. I'll be honest, I don't think I would have guessed shopping mall parking lots if I'm being honest, but the thing is there's so many different kinds of intersections all over the country and all over the world with so many different rules about them. Just this week, I was in a 5-way intersection that I've probably been in one at some point in my life, but I can't think of another one in the entire Bay Area. And if you Bay Area people are wondering, what are you talking about? It's the Veterans Boulevard exit on Highway 101 South in Redwood City. That spot right there. You come down off the ramp to a 5-way light. And it takes a real long time. You sit there for a while at that light. So yeah, there's so many different kinds of intersections, and what a challenge that is for them for Tesla to have to try and navigate. And by the way, the Hardware 3 upgrades, aka the full self-driving computer upgrades, for those that have paid for it, have been given what seems like a slight delay, if you want to call it that, from what Elon had previously said, because he had previously said a few times later this year, Q4. Now he's saying end of Q4 most likely for when those hardware upgrades will happen in the cars. Now remember, those upgrades are supposed to coincide with software actually being ready to go. Not necessarily all the software, but full self-driving features, urban self-driving features. On Tesla's Design Studio, they say reading stop signs, stop lights, navigating intersections. So we'll see about that. Those will hopefully be holiday presents for us to unwrap in our cars, so to speak. Now, on a related note, an exclusive from a website called theinformation.com details a shakeup that they report on the Tesla Autopilot team that, according to their report, has seen roughly 11 people, or about 10% of the Autopilot team, leave Tesla in the past couple of months. Just going to read you a couple of excerpts here from their very lengthy report. They say, quote, several key Tesla engineering managers working on its Autopilot semi-automated driving feature left the company after CEO Elon Musk told some employees he was unhappy with the progress in developing fully automated driving capabilities, according to one current and one former Tesla employee who have been involved in the effort. He is also upset that some team members have told him they can't meet the deadlines he has set for developing the technology, they said. Mr. Musk's unhappiness with the Autopilot group appears to stem from difficulties it has had in adapting the software, which was designed to automatically steer Tesla vehicles on highways, to work with city driving, according to the current and former Tesla employees. The Autopilot team for some time has been trying to get the software to work in cities as part of the broader goal of achieving, quote, full self-driving. Mr. Musk has promised that Tesla will have, quote, fully self-driving capabilities by next year on city streets and highways. Mr. Musk, quote, has sold people on full autonomy, end quote, capabilities for Tesla vehicles within a year or so, and he wants to deliver on that, the employee said. On city streets, lane lines are sometimes absent or ill-defined compared to highways, posing problems for Autopilot engineers working on upcoming versions of the software, said the current employee. And the system often doesn't know how to recognize parked cars because it's not a common feature of highway driving, this person said. If you want to read the rest of it, you can search that out on theinformation.com. Well, the report does note that others that remain have been promoted to fill those leadership vacancies, and the people that spoke to the information.com noted that Tesla has plenty of advantages over their competitors in the race to achieve full self-driving as well. Now, personally, I can't imagine the magnitude of the problem that Tesla is trying to solve here. I'm sorry for repeating myself, but actually stop and think about it. Now, I know, maybe some of you that are engineers out there are breaking down the problem in your head right now as I say stop and think about it. But for the rest of us that aren't engineers, it's just an incredible problem to solve. And we know that it's Elon's top priority. He said that at I believe it was the shareholder meeting recently. And we've heard as well that he sits with the Autopilot team on his Tesla days when he's working at Tesla as opposed to SpaceX. So I got to figure, I don't want to talk out of school here, but I would figure that the Autopilot team, it's probably a pretty high stress job, but also a super high reward situation for that team. So best of luck to them. We are rooting for them and looking forward to seeing their progress as 2019 draws on and we head into 2020. Next up this week, Tesla is ramping up production, according to an internal company memo that was seen by Bloomberg. Bloomberg reports, quote, Tesla is getting ready to increase electric vehicle production, according to an internal email after achieving record deliveries in the second quarter. The company is, quote, making preparations to raise output at its auto plant in Fremont, California, Tesla's automotive president Jerome Guillen said in an email to employees on Tuesday. Guillen says, quote, while we can't be too specific in this email, I know you will be delighted with the upcoming developments. Again, he's speaking to the entire company here in a company email. Guillen's message also said that the company, quote, hit new records in all production lines for output and efficiency in the most recent quarter, both in Fremont and in Nevada, and that, quote, quality is also reaching record highs. And then a quick note from Jerome in this memo on Gigafactory 3. He says, quote, the stamping, body, paint, and general assembly lines in China are well underway and hitting records in both line design and fabrication, the memo said. Well, I'm guessing that the reason Jerome can't be more specific in the email is because he and everybody at Tesla knows that any and all company-wide memos tend to get leaked. But anyway, someone on Twitter asked me if I thought that this meant the Model Y could be gearing up a little earlier than expected. And let me preface this by saying I have no internal sources to back up my gut feeling on this. My gut feeling is no. This is not Model Y related. Because remember, in my interview with Elon, he told me that they couldn't meaningfully produce the Model Y right now, even if they wanted to, due to battery supply constraints. Gigafactory has to ramp up to get ready for the Model Y just as much as Fremont has to ramp up and get ready for the Model Y. So I think this ramping of production is simply speeding up Model 3 production at Fremont, the lessons of which, of course, will no doubt carry over to the Model Y and hopefully speed that car's production ramp up next year so that it takes a much shorter amount of time to go from 100 cars a week to 1,000 cars a week to 3,000 cars a week to 5,000 cars a week on the Model Y. I would suspect that Tesla's probably looking to finally get up to 7,000 Model 3s per week in Fremont, which had been a stated goal of Elon a while ago. And then the thing is, if they can do that, and if they can ramp Gigafactory 3 in Shanghai up to 3,000 Model 3s per week by, the end of this year, maybe early next, then they would finally hit that 10,000 Model 3 per week goal that Elon had aggressively set quite a while back now. So all I can say here is go Tesla. I mean, good. It's great to see this. This inspires confidence when in both, the production efficiency at the company and also demand of the cars, when you see them really ramping up parts orders and ramping up production like this, there's nothing but good things coming out of this. Speaking of nothing but good things, how about the Model S being the ultimate car of the year? Motor Trend names the Model S, specifically the 2013 Model S, as the ultimate car of the year. So what this was basically a face-off of every car of the year, one per decade, and then picking a winner from all of those. So here's what Motor Trend said about the Model S. They said, quote, "The 2010s aren't quite over yet, but when we sat down to pick which car of the year winner from this decade is most impactful, we quickly unanimously agreed upon the 2013 Model S, which was the car that, of course, won their car of the year unanimously at that time. Simply put, no car, let alone truck or sport utility vehicle, from the 2010s has had or will have both the cultural and vehicular impact of the big Tesla sedan. The Model S turned the automotive industry on end when it made its 2013 debut. Saying the Tesla Model S is a game changer is cliche, but no vehicle can do what the Model S can do as well as it does it. This is the vehicle that almost single-handedly made electric cars cool. More telling, even 6 years after the Model S went into production and won Car of the Year, there's still not a single electric car from another automaker that can go as far as the Model S, now up to 370 miles on the latest version, go as quick as the Model S, down to a shocking 2.3 seconds 0 to 60 on the P100D Ludicrous Plus, or challenge Tesla's sense of California cool. As it did in 2013, the Tesla Model S feels like the future, end quote. And then when they named it the ultimate winner, they said, quote, "The mere fact the Tesla Model S exists at all is a testament to innovation and entrepreneurship, the very qualities that once made the American automobile industry the largest, richest, and most powerful in the world. That the 11 judges unanimously voted the first vehicle designed from the wheels up by a fledgling automaker, the 2013 Motor Trend Car of the Year should be cause for celebration. America can still make things." Note, by the way, as Daisy the Boxer Puppy drinks behind me, if you're hearing something, I'm not sure if that'll pick up, but that Motor Trend unanimously agreed on this pick as their 2010s decade nominee. That's pretty awesome. I mean, personally, I'd put the Model 3 up there as well because it basically also does everything right, and it is proving to be a huge catalyst for the electric vehicle movement. Though, of course, the Model 3 didn't even win Motor Trend's Car of the Year award. It lost out to the Alfa Romeo Giulia, which I'm not going to badmouth that car. I haven't driven it. I don't know it very well. I'm sure it's a great car. But yeah, I mean, I certainly can't argue with Motor Trend in that the Model S is clearly the more important car. And everything the Model 3 has succeeded in, it has done so off of the back of the Model S. Now, if you're curious, by the way, the other finalists for this were the 1968 Pontiac GTO. That one's a little near and dear to my heart because that is a John DeLorean creation. The 1986 Mazda RX-7 from the 80s. From the 90s, the 1996 Dodge Caravan, basically the start of the minivan craze. The 2004 Toyota Prius, of course, its hybrid technology and efficiency. 1955 Chevy Bel Air. 1949 Cadillac Series 62 Sedanette. And 1972, representing the 70s, the Citroën SM. Well, you know, history already over the last 6-7 years has been very, very kind to the Model S, and deservedly so. And to their credit, Motor Trend has always been big fans, big supporters of the Model S. So I just want to say to this, really, congratulations to Tesla and to the Model S team. I mean, that is no small feat. This is a automobile enthusiast magazine that's been around for decades. And you all know about the amount of scrutiny and sometimes unfair FUD that gets spoken and written about with regard to Tesla. So, you know, Tesla came and rewrote the rule book, and for, a major enthusiast automotive publication like Motor Trend to come out and say, hey, this is our ultimate Car of the Year award winner. I mean, that's saying something. That's not it's not an insignificant thing. It's great to see. We're starting to wind down here this week, I promise. It's already 30 minutes into the show. The CHAdeMO adapter for Model 3 finally available. I know a lot of people out there looking for it. Teslarati reports, quote, Tesla is finally offering a CHAdeMO quick charge adapter for the Model 3 in its online store, giving Model 3 owners additional options for fast charging outside of the Supercharger network and leverage the vast DC charging network. With this update, Tesla's existing lineup of vehicles, the SX and 3, are now all compatible with CHAdeMO's expansive network of chargers, end quote. Well, if you are in the market for a CHAdeMO adapter, if it is of use to you, be warned, it will cost you. It is a $450 adapter, or basically almost the price of a high-power wall connector. But hey, if you need it, over the life of the car, it could definitely pay for itself if you use a lot of public chargers. A lot, specifically, obviously, CHAdeMO chargers. So, if you're on vacation somewhere, there's not a supercharger around, that could be useful to you over time. But just wanted to send out that note for those of you who may have been waiting on a CHAdeMO adapter. One other quick thing, one more interesting Elon Musk Twitter exchange with someone that appears to have now gotten a new feature added to the queue for our cars, maybe two features. A Twitter user asked, hey, Elon, can you add an I'm feeling lucky destination option and take the driver on a fun surprise adventure? And Elon replied to this and said, quote, would be cool if the car took you to a random fun place traveled to by other Tesla owners in the area. And then later he replied again, adding, done. I'm feeling lucky, and I'm feeling, and it's the emoji with the tongue sticking out with a smiley face emoji. So I'm feeling that, I guess, like saucy, maybe. I don't know what the technical name of that emoji is. Anyway, those two navigation buttons coming with the next software release. So just this is, again, one of those things, classify it under the Tesla should be the most fun thing you ever have section of updates. That is the Elon Musk, credo for Tesla. You hear it. It's the last thing you hear every week on this podcast. He's said it before. There you go. He's just living it, practicing it. One last thing before I move on to the Ride the Lightning hotline and get to your calls, of which, as usual, there are plenty of good ones this week. This blew up. And I don't quite know what to make of it, and I'll explain why in a second. So a Twitter user says, quote, any thoughts of adding Spotify to my car? And Elon replied and said, okay. So everybody ran with this, or a lot of people ran with this and said, yes, Spotify is coming to Tesla. And, whether it's replaces the Slacker streaming system that's in there now or lives alongside it. Now, if you're a European listener of mine and you're going, what? I already have Spotify. Europe already has it, and they've always had it. So it's got to be some contractual thing where, obviously, when Tesla launched the Model S in 2012, they must have signed some sort of long-term deal with Slacker to be the exclusive streaming music provider in the Tesla vehicles. And if you remember, again, I don't mean to bring this. I'm not trying to bring up the Elon interview I did egotistically, I promise. But it just the topics this week keep lending themselves to it. I did ask him that question point blank, like, are we getting Spotify? And he got kind of, not to put this, I don't mean this in a negative way, but he got almost kind of defensive about it. He said, what's wrong with Slacker? And then he said, we have bigger fish to fry. Remember that? So, I don't know if that means now with this new reply that he's, changed his tune on that, and they're going to go ahead and move forward with adding Spotify to the Tesla fleet outside of Europe. I'm not sure. Or the other thing too is, remember, he didn't say, yes, we're doing it. The person specifically asked, you gotta look carefully with this stuff. The question was, any thoughts of adding Spotify to my car? And Elon said, okay, not yes, not we're working on it now, just okay. So, I'm not quite ready to call this a done deal. And I would advise you, if you're super excited about the prospect of having Spotify built into your Tesla, just temper your expectations a little while until it's a done deal. So I will definitely keep an eye on this. And if more concrete developments come along, I will certainly pass them along on this podcast. All right, that is enough yammering from me. As I said, there was a ton to cover this week, but hang tight. I'm going to hear from you next in the Ride the Lightning hotline. Plenty of your awesome phone calls lined up, a lot to talk about right after this. Time for the Ride the Lightning hotline. It's where you guys call in with your Tesla questions, comments, and discussion topics. And if you've got a question, comment, or discussion topic, I encourage you, I welcome you, I invite you to send it my way. Go ahead and participate here. I love to hear from everybody. 2 easy ways to do that. Either use your smartphone's built-in voice recording software, record a question, please try to keep it to 90 seconds or less, and then email that file to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. Alternatively, you can also leave hopefully a 90-second or less question on the Ride the Lightning hotline. You call in, it's a toll-free number, super easy. That number, 1-888-989-8752. Again, that's 1-888-989-TSLA. And hey, if you know someone special with an upcoming birthday, anniversary, graduation, or some other special occasion, you can give them a unique gift of recorded voices from friends and family telling them why they're special. The recordings can be podcasted or put onto a keepsake. Visit lifeonrecord.com to learn more. Let's kick it off with Mark in San Diego, who has a Model Y question. Go ahead, Mark.
Hello, Ryan. This is Mark from San Diego. I love the show. Thank you for all you do for the community. I had a question about the Model Y. Don't know if you know the answer, but I thought I'd try. My wife and I are wondering if it has a power liftgate rather than just a conventional liftgate. I can't seem to find any definitive answer online and wondered if you knew. Thank you. Bye.
Well, Mark, according to one of the Tesla employees that was doing the test rides on the Model Y reveal night, it does. In fact, here, I found it. Take a listen to the audio clip from this particular test ride, courtesy of the YouTube channel I1 Tesla. That's I, the number 1 Tesla. And also to the Reddit user expect_012. That's XP3CT_012, who posted the thread on Reddit that I was able to find this clip from.
Did a power liftgate? Yes, it will have a power liftgate.
So there you go. Pretty clear answer. Now, unfortunately, we can't take that as 100% fact. On my very own Model 3 test ride in 2016, Doug Field, who is no longer with the company, but he told me, I had asked, he told me there was audio of it. I played it on episode 35, I believe that was, from the Model 3 event. Told me that there would be a moonroof option on the Model 3, and that has never materialized. But I think the probability here, particularly with the confidence with which that Tesla employee said it, is pretty high. I mean, a power liftgate is something that absolutely everybody that's buying a Model Y probably wants, particularly families. So I think the probability is super good. Can't quite take it as gospel, but I think the odds are very, very much in your favor here. So thank you so much, Mark. Next up, we've got Alex from Dallas. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey, Ryan, this is Alex from Dallas. Love the show. I've got 2 questions for you. First is, this morning I saw an article saying that Tesla is going to eventually stop selling cars at consumer prices because they estimate that once full self-driving is complete, they should be able to make $330,000 per car over the lifetime of the vehicle. So financially, it makes sense. Don't sell it to somebody for $50,000 when you can make over $300,000 with it. But I think that goes against what Elon was saying, that a Tesla should be the most fun thing you could buy ever, and that they just get converted into taxis instead of, vehicles for enjoyment. And so there's this lucky batch of people who were able to afford one before self-driving became fully functional, and they all just turned into taxis. So wondering, realistically, when you think that will happen, and how bad it would affect prices. And the other, that makes me scared. I want to get the Model 3 Performance, and now I feel like I got to do it. There's this ticking time bomb before that happens. So I'm wondering, you're a performance owner, can you feel the difference when you drive in a all-wheel drive dual motor, which has, I think, about a second less on the 0 to 60 time? Because I know I'm going to be having my foot to the floor everywhere I go, and so I want to know, is that $10,000 worth the money? Do you feel the difference in acceleration between those two models? Thanks.
Thank you for calling in, Alex. I want to shout out Marshall from Atlanta and Will from Boulder also called in on this topic. And all of this is referring to a tweet from Elon in which he said, quote, "To be clear, consumers will still be able to buy a Tesla, but the clearing price will rise significantly as a fully autonomous car that can function as a robotaxi is several times more valuable than a non-autonomous car," end quote. Well, I think, first of all here, it is going to be a long time before we get to that point. Second, I think it's more likely that the price of the full self-driving package will go up, but not necessarily the cars themselves. As you note, Alex, it flies in the face of the mission. Though Elon did agree with a follow-up assessment from the person or people behind the Twitter account Disruption Research, which I should note follows me, so if you're out there listening right now, hello. But they wrote this: "Otherwise, profits will end up going to scalpers, and there will be a multi-year wait list. The right clearing price will help Tesla accelerate growth and mission by massively expanding capacity." And Elon replied with, "Exactly." So we'll see, but I really think this is a long way away. And to your second question, we just got done hearing about how hard the full self-driving problem is. So I think this is a long way away. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I do think this is pretty far out in the future, farther than this Twitter exchange made it seem. Now, to your second question, Alex, about whether or not the P3D is worth it, as always with these questions, let me caveat by saying I don't know what your financial situation is, but what I can tell you from my own experience, and I'm being, obviously, why would I be anything but sincere here? There is not a single moment where I've ever regretted the extra money that I spent on the performance version. It's the car, it's a roller coaster on tap. That is the best way that I can describe the Performance Model 3. And any bad day can, at least for a moment, be instantly erased. If you, again, just for a second, not saying it fixes all your problems, not saying it's a total cure for your bad day, but just for a moment, you will feel better when you floor it at a safe opportunity. It's so much fun. I can't overstate how much I love that car. So, it's not my money, so I can tell you, YOLO, right? Just, you only live once, go for it. But in all seriousness, it is a blast. If you end up going for it, if that, sort of financially works for you, I really don't think you'll regret it. So, good luck in whichever way you go. Because, if you end up going with the regular dual motor, it's no slouch itself. It's got a really great of low 4 second 0 to 60 time. It is pretty darn quick unto itself. The standard dual motor Model 3 has basically the same 0 to 60 time as the original Performance Model S, the original P85. So just for a little context there, what was a $100,000 car, the P85, in 2012, 2013, 2014, is now basically, what is it, 55,000 or so for a dual motor with some options. So that's how far Tesla has come and how quickly they've gotten there. So you've got a really good option either way. Tom from Houston is up next, And responding to, he wanted to talk about early access program. Go ahead, Tom.
Hey, Ryan, this is Tom from Houston calling. I'm a relatively new listener to your podcast and absolutely love it. I've probably listened to the last 5 episodes or so. I think you do a fabulous job. I love your impartiality and just think that it's fantastic. I've learned a lot and really enjoy it. The other question that I had was with regard to the beta testing program and I think they call it the early access program that Tesla has. How does someone become a part of that, and is there a cost to it, and is it worthwhile? I've been very, very curious to get my hands on this enhanced summon feature. I've been hearing about it for quite some time and understand from Elon that this was to come out any time, and this was months ago, but of course, jokingly, that is on Elon time, and we know what that's like. So any feedback you could provide on those 2 topics, I would really appreciate it. And once again, Ryan, you're doing a great job with the podcast. Keep up the great work, and thanks so much. I'm a relatively new Model 3 owner. I got my car just at the tail end of 2018 before the tax credit was cut in half, and absolutely love this car. It's the best car I've ever had. Drives like nothing else, and certainly makes me want to take the long way home wherever I go. Thanks, Ryan. Take care.
Welcome to the podcast, Tom. Thanks so much for calling in. Well, I don't think Tesla has any kind of application process to be in the early access program. It is free, but I believe you either have to know somebody or just get invited. Now, I've seen the latter happen to people based on things like their geographic location and or their usage patterns. In other words, if you can offer data that Tesla can use to help the fleet, maybe you live somewhere, a certain place with certain traffic patterns or what have you, they might invite you to the program. Now, on the subject of enhanced summon, I'm actually not in the early access program myself, but I will say that I heard from actually a couple people in the early access program, and both of them told me that enhanced summon is really improved over the initial early access release of it. Apparently it can now follow the painted grid lines in some parking lots now. And again, both people I talked to, for real, they were both really impressed by it, particularly in the context of comparing it to the previous early access releases of it. Thanks so much, Tom. Let's go to Ken in Canada, who's having some warning messages in his car that he would like some help with. So, Ken, you're on the air.
Hey, Ryan. This is Ken from Canada. First-time caller, and thanks for all your hard work putting together a fantastic podcast. We really enjoy the community that you've created and this forum for all of us to engage with. My question for you: every time I start up and get ready to drive from my garage, I always have a pop-up warning and the audible tone saying auto steer not available. And I'm wondering, is there a way to silence that audible tone or that warning? Every single day when getting ready to leave the garage, I always get the warning. And I'd like to mute it or ignore it, but I'm wondering if there's another way to do so. Thanks very much.
Ken, welcome to the show. Now, I presume that you don't actually have a problem with Autopilot itself. If I'm understanding you correctly, because I've actually seen this happen to me when I park in a certain spot in my office parking garage that has high walls next to the spot, like 3-foot high walls, it'll tell me visibility reduced and cruise not available because the 2 repeater cameras on the fenders just see wall. They can't see any cars. They can't see more than 2-3 feet, whatever it is. And so they'll give me those error messages. So I presume that it must just be that in your garage, your Tesla can't see properly, so it gives you that warning. Now, unfortunately, I don't believe there's any way to mute it. I poked around in my own car menu and couldn't find a way to do so. So my apologies. I wish I could offer a better answer to you, but I think you're stuck with this as a minor inconvenience. Russ from Charlotte is up next, commenting on the North Carolina dealership situation. Remember that I had a update on that last week, as well as the call from Christy last week about using HomeLink remotely. So go ahead, Russ.
Hi, Ryan. Russ here from Charlotte, North Carolina. Great news about the dealerships being opened up for North Carolina. That's a long time coming, long overdue. Glad to hear it. I also wanted to comment on Christy's comment about using the HomeLink from a remote location. It's not the distance of the app or your mobile device from your garage. It's the distance of your car. So if you happen to be away somewhere but your car is still near the home, you can use the HomeLink to open your garage doors. I have all three of my garage doors connected to my HomeLink. It's very convenient. It appears to me that the main one, the one that gets opened when the car backs out of the garage or pulls in, the one that you designate as the default, that's the one that is triggered when you use the HomeLink from the summon screen in your app. Just a little clarification there for you guys. It's car proximity, not app proximity, that gets the car door open. Can come in pretty handy sometimes. Love the show. Great job. Thank you.
Russ, thank you so much for your call and for that clarification. As you guys know, I am always happy to learn something new about Tesla and help spread that correct and new knowledge. I want to note Christoph from Germany also chimed in on the topic and mentioned that the Remote for Tesla app also has more functionality with this, i.e. apparently it can do Siri voice command shortcuts. So that's pretty cool. Thanks, Russ. Thanks, Christoph. One more that I don't have a comment on, just always one of those just learning something new calls. John from Atlanta, also on the subject of using the HomeLink remotely through the app. Go ahead, John.
Hi, Ryan. This is John from Atlanta. I love your show. Been listening to it for a couple months now. And I have a great tip responding to the caller from last week named Christy, who had a question regarding having multiple garage doors with the customized summon feature. So if you go under your settings under Autopilot and hit Customize Summon, you are able to choose which door opens with the HomeLink function on the mobile phone app by configuring Use Auto HomeLink. So when you turn Auto HomeLink on, it allows you to choose between however many garage doors you have open. But if you turn it back off, it still retains that setting, so that when you use it on your phone to open the garage door, it uses that setting within the settings on the car. So you are able to configure multiple garage doors on which one you are able to open. So hopefully you can use this tip. And once again, thanks for doing all this. Bye.
Thank you for that call, John. Next up is Roger in Fort Lauderdale, responding to the story last week that I was kind of annoyed with regarding the acoustic vehicle alert system, the pedestrian noisemaker for electric vehicles. Roger, you're on the air.
Hey, Ryan, this is Roger from Fort Lauderdale. Wanted to make two comments based on your last podcast in reference to the acoustic vehicle alert system, where it mentioned cars going forward need to have a vehicle alert anything under 17 miles an hour. Well, the first point I want to make is what car generates that much noise under 17 miles an hour? Most cars are in idle mode and you can't hear them anyway. Secondly, why is this a problem now? Because there have been several hybrids out for many years, like the Prius or any of the other hybrids where anything under 20 miles an hour, they're in battery mode and you can't hear them anyway. So I don't know why now it's an issue, but just making the point.
You know, Roger, your point is a good one. You mentioned hybrids running on battery mode at low speeds, which of course you're right about. But even most newer, pure ICE vehicles automatically shut the engine off when they're sitting in traffic. So even if they're moving, new engines are pretty darn quiet anyway. So I am 100% with you on this, which, by the way, now only exacerbates my annoyance at that EU law that requires EVs to sound like internal combustion engine cars with those pedestrian noisemakers. Oh, my goodness. Well, maybe some lawmakers over there will come to their senses before too long. Couple of more calls this week, 3 of them, in fact. Kaz from San Diego is replying to Thomas, who had called in looking for comparisons, sort of apples-to-apples size comparisons to the Model Y. Here's Kaz with some help in that department.
Hey, Ryan, Kaz in San Diego again, the Tesla truck fanatic. Calling in regards to Thomas from Maryland in episode 205, was asking about the current comparison to the real-world crossovers that we have now. And as my wife Maggie and I were heading up the 5 recently, I saw just that. The BMW X1 is what I would bet to be the twin of the Model Y that is currently rolling around. Very similar in size to the 3, however a little bit taller, more cargo space as the Y will have, so I hope that helps out a little bit. And being the truck fanatic, I was thinking back to quite a few of your episodes that had to do with this game-changing feature that Elon mentioned for the truck. And aside from crazy things like amphibious or being able to leap, I have an idea of what it might be. It may have been mentioned before, but an autonomous towing ability to be able to pull and park large loads like boats, fifth wheels, or any kind of substantial trailer. That'd be extremely useful to anyone who knows the trucking world. And on top of that, I wouldn't be surprised if he's got a hidden fifth wheel hitch that's compartmentalized in the bed that maybe rises up when needed. A little food for thought. Love to hear everyone's thoughts. Thanks, Ryan. Have a good one.
Thank you, Kaz. I appreciate that X4 mention because, as I said last week, I don't know the crossover world at all. So that is an excellent point of context for Thomas to have. I also love your pickup truck idea, by the way. Elon did indeed say that it would have some super cool stuff, and the feature that you mentioned could very much be seriously useful, particularly, I would think, in commercial applications. So thanks for your call. 2 more calls. Dan from Eastern Iowa wants to talk Model S and used prices. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, Ryan. This is Dan from Eastern Iowa. This is my first time calling in. I've been listening for about 6 months and love the podcast. It's awesome. So my first question is, do you think with the potential Model S and X refresh coming up, with the rumored over 400 miles of range in the S, that we'll see a drop in price of the older Model S's on the used market? For example, currently you can pick up a 2013 Model S for we'll call it $28,000. Do you think we'll see any sort of significant drop in prices on those in the used market? With possibly an influx of more used Model S's as people upgrade to the new, better option. So curious about that. I think that would be great for the used market. And then my second, more of a comment, is hopefully all your listeners can keep your fingers crossed for me as I am waiting to hear back on a position within Tesla as a service technician. So super excited about that. It's looking like things are good and going to happen for that. So basically a dream job. So I'm sure you guys can all understand that I'm super excited for that. So anyway, thanks for the podcast. Really appreciate it, all the work you do, and looking forward to next week's episode. Thanks. Bye.
Dan, first of all, I hope by now that you've already gotten offered the position at Tesla. Optimistically, I'm going to say that by the time you hear this versus when you sent the call in, that you did. So I certainly hope that some congratulations are in order. I tell you, in all honesty, every service tech that I've had the pleasure of meeting has been super awesome. And I can tell just from your voice that you sound like a good guy. I hope it works out great for you. Now, as for your question, well, you heard me talk earlier on this episode about Elon's tweet about the subject of redesigned Model S's, but I think your point remains valid in the context of the Raven cars with that new suspension and the 370-mile range battery on the long range. The Raven update might not spur quite as many upgrades from existing Model S owners as a full-blown redesign would, but I imagine a decent number of people will move up just for the range. Not to mention the fact that if you remember, the Tesla has been offering, I'm not sure if they're still offering it, but they had there for a bit when the Ravens first came out, were offering a free ludicrous upgrade to existing Model S owners if they went ahead and bought a new Model S. So, you might indeed start to see some of the prices on older Model S's go down in the used market. I would just keep an eye on Tesla's used inventory page if indeed you're shopping. Our last and certainly not least caller this week is Henry from Richmond, Virginia, and got some bad news recently, and he's a little frustrated. See if I can help him out at all here. Henry, go ahead.
Hey, Ryan, it's Henry from Richmond, Virginia. First-time caller. Been listening to the podcast for a few months now since I got my Model 3. When I bought my Model 3, I used a referral code from the customer service team for 1,000 miles of free supercharging. And then when I went to take delivery, I overheard a guy placing a deposit for another Model 3, and he was looking for a referral code. I gave him mine and watched him use it for an additional 5,000 miles for each of us. But I've still yet to receive any free supercharging miles, and I pay for a few supercharger visits every week. My customer service advisor was very responsive when I brought it up with him and gave me the impression that this was a known issue and that he was working to get it resolved, but recently stopped responding. After contacting Tesla support many times, I was told that in Virginia, Tesla owners are not eligible to receive supercharging benefits, but can only give others free supercharging miles when they use my code. I'm confused as to why I was never told about this at the time of purchase and why I was promised free supercharging if that was never an option for Virginia residents. I was curious if you had ever heard of anyone in a similar predicament or if any of your listeners had any insight. Although supercharging is so cheap in comparison to gas prices, I feel shortchanged and nobody at Tesla seems concerned about correcting the issue. Thanks again for all the work you put into your podcast and keeping me entertained and up to date with Tesla news. I hope you have some insight for me. Thanks again.
I am very sorry to hear this, Henry. Unfortunately, when you go to tesla.com/referral, it is spelled out there. Quote, program and awards are conditional on and subject to local laws and regulations. Unfortunately, Ohio and Virginia residents are not eligible for referral program awards, end quote. Should you have been told that? Yes, I think so. Most likely, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. I'm guessing the salesperson that you dealt with just didn't know. And while that's certainly no excuse, I'm not excusing it. I doubt the person tried to maliciously hoodwink you. I'm not sure if you have any recourse, and I completely understand your frustration. I do hope that clears it up. I would try maybe pleading your case to Tesla one more time. Maybe there's a little something they can do for you on that. But that is just one of those weird like prize laws that are in the fine print of everything. And unfortunately, you're on the wrong end of it this time. Well, that's it for the Ride the Lightning Hotline. Thanks to all of you who called in. Again, please do call in if you want to talk something with regard to Tesla. You've got a question, comment, some sort of discussion topic. I'd love to hear it. Give me a call. I told you how at the top of this segment, and we'll do some more of these calls next week. But for now, I'll be right back to wrap things up for you right after this. Well, I guess the only really interesting thing I can tell you about from my Tesla adventures over the past week is the strange supercharging experience I had earlier in the week. So I went on Sunday with about a little less than half battery had a bad supercharging experience. I rolled up to the San Mateo Bridgepoint supercharger, which is at a Target, which is super nice because you can plug in and then you go get stuff at Target if you need it, if you got anything on your shopping list. And it was totally full. It was busy. I had to wait in line, which I've never had to do at that supercharger. I think it was I was second in a line of what turned into 3 or 4 cars. But when I finally got a stall, I pulled in, and I was only pulling 124 miles an hour and on 30 kilowatts. So that's less than half of what the urban superchargers can do. So that was, and there was nowhere I could go to try another stall. They were all full. So I went into Target. I got a couple things that I needed to kill some time, came out, and I was like, I'm not going to wait for this. It's just like, why bother? So that was, that might be the only time I've ever left a supercharger without like getting a substantial amount of juice out of it. So that was kind of frustrating. Not frustrating, but a little disappointing, I guess. But interestingly, I came back to that supercharger. It's either it was the very next day, because I drove the car a bunch more from the half charge it was at, and I had left it. I'd purposely not charged it that night because I think I decided, I'll just go supercharge when I'm out again. And anyway, ended up at the same supercharger, San Mateo Bridgepoint, at that Target. And this time there were a few empty spots, including an empty B stall next to me. I was on an A, and the B next to me was empty. And that time it was great. I was at about I was pretty low. I mean, I was maybe down to like 15 or 20% charge, so pretty low state of charge. And I got 550 miles per hour on 135 kilowatts. So that was great. That's what it should have been. Well, not that exact number, but yeah, I mean, that time it was working just fine. So kind of strange. It wasn't, extremely hot or anything else. So I don't know if it was just the full load at the entire supercharger, every stall being full or what, but that on the day before. Anyway, pro tip of the week. Let's hear from Mike in New Jersey, who maybe not a pro tip so much as a word of caution. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Ryan, how's it going? This is Mike from New Jersey, calling in with a tip today. About a week ago, I purchased the automatic trunk opener struts. You can get them from different places online, but what I failed to look at before installing was that as a precaution, you should put a towel or cardboard or something soft next to the glass that's right beside those struts when you're taking the old ones off. I kind of missed that, and when I was taking the one side off, I accidentally knocked the strut metal into the glass that's kind of just exposed there when you have the trunk open, and like many others I've found out after the fact, I broke the back piece of glass there. So to avoid some headaches, I know a lot of people are doing this with their Model 3s currently. Make sure you put a towel a few layers thick or something padded between that strut and that glass so that you don't make a mistake like I did. If this helps just at least one person, then it was worth it. So thanks, and I love the show. Thanks.
Mike, I am sorry to hear about that mishap. I hope you got it fixed up, and I would be curious what you think of the automatic trunk opening kit now that you do have it. Drop me a line anytime if you feel like it. I'm kind of curious about that one. All right, let me give a couple plugs here. First, for Immaculate Reflections, if you are in the market for awesome detailing work on your Tesla, and you either live in the Bay Area, or maybe you're taking delivery up here, or you're just going to be in the Bay Area, well, Immaculate Reflections will take excellent care of you, and they are currently offering $100 off any ceramic coating or paint protection film package. But if you step up to a full body paint protection film over the whole car, it is $250 off. You can get in touch with Jeff at Immaculate Reflections to get on his schedule or ask him some questions, whatever you want to do. Check his website out at irdetailing.com. That is how to contact him. You can also see examples of his work on there or on Yelp or Instagram. On Yelp, he's yelp.com/Immaculate Reflections. And on Instagram, his username is Immaculate_Reflections. Meanwhile, Abstract Ocean got all kinds of good Tesla goodies, accessories, meanwhile, is what I'm talking about. Whether it's the, glass screen protectors for your Model 3, whether it's the wraps for, center console, door, the little window switch, the glossy areas, etc. Whatever you want to do, they've got all kinds of great stuff, and they are still offering that 15% discount code for new customers. So pile everything you want in your cart, go to checkout and use the coupon code RTL Podcast. That's all one word, RTL Podcast at checkout. Get that 15% off of your first order. If you really enjoy the show, as I hope you do, and you feel like I have earned your support, because, support does have to be earned. It is not simply given, it has to be earned. And I do my best to earn that support from you by being here week after week and putting my heart and soul into this thing. But the support is always optional, but if you do want to do it, I would love you to look at my Patreon page where you can find out more about how to support me and the various perks that are offered at the various support tiers. So that's all I'll say about it, other than give you the website, which is patreon.com/Tesla Podcast. Patreon is spelled Patreon. You can email me anytime, teslapodcast@gmail.com. I'm on Twitter @DMC_Ryan. Same thing on Instagram. What else? The Jada wireless charging pad for your phone in the Model 3, as well as the Model 3 USB hub. If you want to get either or both of those, I sadly don't have a discount for you, but I have a referral link. So if you just plan to buy one, I would sincerely appreciate it if you would use the link I'm about to give you, because Jada will toss a couple bucks my way for me having directed you to them. So the link is getjada.com/ref/8, and Jada is spelled JEDA. Finally, I want to thank all the Patreon producers, the wonderful folks supporting me at the producer tier, which means they get the shout out every week that I'm about to give them all now, plus the monthly bonus episode of all the extra Ride the Lightning hotline calls that I can't get to during the regular weekly shows, and they get early access to each week's episode as well. So that's everything that the producers get. So a big thanks to my newest Patreon producer, Kaz Barnes. Thank you so much, Kaz. As well as the rest of the group, DJ Harbaugh, Pete White, Wolfgang Obergen, George Cassiopo, David Brander, Jonathan Wales, Alexi Heft, Logan Willis, Matthew Parra, Michael Lester, Robert Miracle, Jason Chalukas, Joe Edgel, Tim Hyde, Marcus Mayenschein, Lars Hoffman, Lawton from Chicago, Peter Chalet, Rome Strack, David Vakil, Ulrich Lassa, Luke A., Eric Randolph, David Nondahl, Gabriel Salays, Jerry and Mary Smith, Brian Hope, Bill Royko, Lyle Austin, Joel Sapp, Dorian Steve Guberman, Luxendary.com, Michael Waddle, Daniel Grummer, Josh, Jeremy Harris, Tesla Owners Taiwan, Rob Brewer, My Tesla Adventure, that's Eli Burton, thank you Eli, Ron Lee, Larry Lynch, Lambert Lee, Chris Konesnik, John Cody, Matthew Wright, Aaron Appleby, and Charlie Gillespie. Thank you all so very much. A reminder to everybody that if you don't already subscribe to the podcast, which is totally free, you do that through your preferred podcast provider, whether that's iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, which remember, TuneIn is in your Tesla. You can listen to this car and access it directly through your car. I'm on Spotify, I'm on YouTube, no video on YouTube, but just the show goes there because a lot of people like to consume any and all of their media, video, audio, or both, on YouTube, so you can find me on there. And that will about wrap it up. So for a very, very sleepy Daisy the Boxer Puppy, I'm Ryan McCaffrey. Thanks as always for giving me, a good hour and whatever it is, 15 minutes of your time this week. It is not an insignificant amount of time. You could do a lot of things with that hour, and I sincerely appreciate that you would spend it with me here on this podcast. So happy electric motoring, everybody, and I'll see you next week.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be.
Well,
our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. Make it maximum fun.